guys, welcome back to another one. If you've seen the thumbnail for this video, you done know it's going to be a pretty cool looking shell when we're done. And that's because we are using one of these translucent blue Fiocchis. It doesn't look translucent, but with my finger in it, you can see right through these, just like a clear hull, but we always wanted something other than a clear translucent hull, and this blue looks super nice. Especially with this green wad and these pink pellets. This is the short shell wad. Just tear the petals off. They are designed to be easily removed. And we are left with about a 1/2 inch tall, maybe a little bit more. Let's call it 5/8 inch brush wad at this point. Sort of like the Flex Seal, but just a hair taller. The dust we're using is, as I like to say, my favorite. And today's number of the day, 26, which is on the lower side. This is going to be running about 1150 to 1200 FPS, which is plenty. These are stacked by 4s, and if you didn't know, pellets stacked by 3s and 4s, especially the larger pellets like this in larger gauges, they tend to have a wider pattern. And this is a pretty big pellet, 31 cal. Stack those by 4s in a 12 gauge. You really ain't got much left room for any sort of a tighter choke. That's not to say tighter chokes will hurt anything, like your gun or nothing like that, or something like that. It's just you're over choking the pellets, causing them to deform pretty bad, and you'll end up with a pretty wide pattern. It's what's called blowing the pattern out. That's what people refer to it as anyway. You blow your pattern out with too tight of a choke. And that's the case with these. Federal 10 gauge buckshot, double-aught buck, 18 pellets. They stack those by 4s. It's actually 31.5 cal pellets. And we've tried them through a regular full, an extra full in my 36 inch barrel. It has a 720 choke, which is extra full for 10 gauge. And the Indian Creek 690, I believe it was. And all of them had pretty bad patterns. I believe the regular full was the best, but still it covered pretty much our entire like 5.5 by 6 foot board. It's pretty bad, and those were buffered, by the way. If you want a tighter pattern out of these, I suggest stacking them by at least 3s, but stick them in a shot cup like the wad we just tore the petals off of. Stack them by 2s, and that's the way to go. Although you will lose pellet count unless you go to a 3-inch shell. And BSB buffer, because, well, it's salt and pepper look. It has a salt and pepper look, which is going to add to the coolness of this shell, and it has a, which you guys can't see, but a metallic sheen to it. Yeah, you can't see it, but it does look super nice. One more component I completely forgot about, a 24 gauge nitro card. Tear one section off of it. Again, these nitro cards come in sections of 3s. I don't have any fingernails, so it's making it seem like it's really difficult, but it's not. There. One section. Why do we need that? It's because the inside of this, well, the bottom of the shot cup in here, it has a lip on it. As you can see now, it's pretty much flat, at least as flat as we need it to be. And you might be asking why I'm using a 24 gauge nitro card for this instead of a 20. It's because the 24 gauge nitro cards are the perfect size, and I have them because I actually have a 24 gauge and we shoot it quite a bit. It's a pretty fun gun. But just happens to be the exact right size. You might be able to get a 20 gauge one to fit if you kind of bend it a little bit and then stick it in there, but 24 gauge is really what you need, and you want this to be flat for this. If you want to stack these by 3s, then just forget the nitro card. They will stack by 3s without it. But that's it. That's all the components. It's pretty simple. Nothing really too complicated. We're just using dust, a short shell wad base, one section of a 24 gauge nitro card, 15 pellets, or sorry, 16 pellets, not 15, and then buffer and an overshot card. That's it. Okay, dust is in here. Now we need the short shell wad base in there, and by dust, you know what I mean. 16 pellets of this 31 cal hard cast, tumbled, polished, powder coated buckshot. It's not really powder coated all that well. And here's our stack height. This will move an overshot card. It's a little bit short. So the payload weight on this without buffer is 1.47 ounces, which is just below 1.5 ounces. With the buffer, it will bring it up to exactly 1.5 ounces, which is pretty cool. But this already looks like a really cool shell. The lighting isn't so great, I know. But I'll show you what it looks like after we crimp it here. I'll turn the camera around and actually get a good view of it. But there you go. And again, without that 24 gauge nitro card in the bottom of that wad, these will be kind of hard to stack by 4s. They'll get in there kind of lopsided. But that's what it's there for, to make it more flat. If you want to stack these by 3 and go with 15, that's what you need to do, is just ditch the nitro card and these will stack by 3s. Here's 1 level scoop of a Lee 2.2 cc dipper with a buffer. Vibrate that down. I think it takes 2 or 1.5, 2. Second scoop, that's probably going to do it right there. And that little bit extra won't hurt us because, again, stack height kind of low. Overshot card, and this should be at the, yep, exact right stack height for a fold crimp, about 1/2 inch from the top of the hull. This is going to look like an awesome shell, guys. I've already put together a few of these. By a few, I meant 1. Turns out I have exactly 32 of these pink 31 cows left, which works out for 2 shells, obviously. But 6.3 crimp needs a little bit more. Oh, this was in the way. That's why I couldn't get it. There we go. Pretty nice looking 6-point. Now the Rabasator. And yes, I know it's actually pronounced Rabasatori, but that one came out great. A little bit too deep. It's really not meant to 90% the way close up the shell, but I'm a little heavy-handed. And like I've said before, I am standing at the press sideways. Not such a good thing for, you know, demonstration purposes as we're doing here, but it works out okay. Normally, I'd be standing over here a little bit off to the right of the press, but pretty much right in line with it. But as you can see, that makes for terrible lighting, and you guys can't see what I'm doing. Anyway, final crimp this, although this step is unnecessary if you're using a BN2 or any kind of crimp finisher. I'm just doing this because I can't use the BN2 right now. Everybody in my house is asleep. But there it is. Final crimp. This is a flawless shell. Not bolted out anywhere. Crimp is perfect, no pinhole. It's completely even. No waviness across the top. It's just completely square on top. I'll hit this with the BN2 in the morning, or actually, where'd I have it? Right here it is. This cone, I don't know what they're called, from GOP, is meant to put a taper on shells. Let's see how that works. They work okay. I just threw together a 10 gauge shell a minute ago with it, and it worked out alright. Let's see what it does to this 12 gauge shell. I've got to get it actually in the press first. Now I have one of these, but it's made of nylon, and it works okay, but if you put a little bit too much pressure, it'll actually make the center of the crimp pop back up a little bit, and I don't like that. And I don't use that thing much these days, because obviously I have the BN2s and stuff now. I do a much better job, but works out okay. As you can see, the top of that is now tapered. It's not really so much tapered as it is belled in, I guess. It's not belled out. And the crimp still looks okay on this. So, hey, that's a pretty cool tool. And I believe it'll do everything from 10 gauge or 8 gauge down to like 32. I've used it on a few 32 gauge shells. Just pull back off here. I want to measure how wide it is at the base. I'd say that's way bigger than 8 gauge. It's an 8 gauge shell. Up there. Yeah, here's an 8 gauge shell, and yes, it is way bigger around than even an 8 gauge shell is. So I guess there's really no need to take calipers to that if it'll do 8 gauge. But I know it'll do 32, so. Almost completely universal. It's just too big for 410. Yeah. Way too big for 410. I don't know, guys. I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed with this. I don't know what it's called, but it's just a steel cone. It works a little bit better than the nylon one I used to use, I'll tell you that. So here's a better view of the shell. I forgot to film this part, so I'm doing this after filming a different video. But as you can see, the crimp still looks just fine after that cone-shaped whatever it's called. But yeah, really nice looking shell. And that's what it does. I wouldn't really call that a taper as much as I would call it is cone-shaped on top. And again, I'll hit this with the BN2 in the morning whenever everybody's, not asleep. So yeah, that is a really nice looking shell. And I would not expect it to pattern all that great because these are, again, stacked by fours and they're a somewhat large pellet. They, I would assume anyway, ride against the bore in all 4 points of contact. Again, not leaving much room for any sort of a tighter choke to help these pattern well. But that's good in this one here, guys. Please like and subscribe. We always appreciate that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below, and we'll get back to you. And if you want to, go check out our Patreon. A link to that, as well as a link to our Instagram, Rumble, and merch store will be down in the description below. But other than that, you guys take it easy, and we'll see you in the next one.